Please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdate 231122.5. The Halls of Injustice is my favourite series to produce, and can often be regarded, owing to the low success of the series itself, as a passion project, much like the daily beatings of literally every single member of my crew. Welcome everyone to the Halls of Injustice. Today we welcome inmates number 187.1, and I'm going to assume also 187.2, but I don't believe I have this individual sentence, so we're going to stick with 187.1 for this video. 187.2 may well get a short on the Halls of Injustice YouTube channel linked down below, once they are sentenced as well. Inmates number 187.1 is a very young man who did an incredibly stupid thing and is now going to pay a price that will cost 187.1 inmate number the majority of their formative adult years. By the time they are released, if they are released at the earliest, they will be in their early 40s. They are a demonstration as to the kind of waste of life you can experience when you cross lines that should never be crossed, especially when you are either 16 or 17 years old when you commit a truly heinous crime, for reasons we will get into soon. Because of how young the individual is, I can't really do too much in the way of telling you who inmates number 187.1 is, beyond their name and their face, which has changed over a few years now. Understandably so, they've been incarcerated since they were arrested. So we're going to dive into one of the earliest articles covering what happened, and then we're going to go from there to build up to present. This will be a slightly different structure of video compared to how we usually do them here. The inmate 187.1 number is Jeremy Goodale. There are others involved, but we are going to focus on Jeremy. On the 4th of November 2021, KTVO put out an article titled "Two Teens Charged with Homicide in Death of Missing Southeast Iowa Woman." The woman in question is Noema Graber, a 66-year-old from Fairfield. She was a teacher. Human remains were found in the Chautauqua Park in Fairfield, Iowa. They were later confirmed to be Miss Graber's. She had been reported missing earlier that day. Special agents from the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation, the DCI, conducted a preliminary investigation into these circumstances. Two individuals, Willard Noble Chaden Miller and Jeremy Everett Goodale, were charged with first-degree homicide, an A felony, and first-degree conspiracy to commit homicide in a C felony. Miss Graber was a Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School, where Miller and Goodale were students. Based on the circumstances and their ages, they are being criminally charged as adults. Here is a mugshot of both of them. As you can tell, they are quite young in this picture. At the ages of 16, this is not good. What on earth leads two 16-year-olds to commit a crime like this on a 66-year-old is a mystery, at this point anyway. The next article was published on April the 28th, 2022 from KHQA. One of the Fairfield teens accused of killing Noema Graber appeared in court. Now 17, Jeremy is currently being charged as an adult. Throughout the hearing, Goodale's defendants argued in favour of having their client's case transferred to juvenile court. The defendants stated the juvenile court system would provide their client with the age-appropriate rehabilitation, something the adult system would not issue in time. Quote, "The state's position robs Jeremy of any meaningful chance of rehabilitation and projects it far off into the future. By then he will be a hardened adult and his character fixed in an adult corrections environment. He will not receive services particular or appropriate for juveniles in the adult system." The state prosecutors, though, pointed out that there are no rehab programs in the juvenile court system made for the charges that he is facing, and that there is not enough time to rehabilitate him, and it is not guaranteed he'll cooperate with rehabilitation. Quote, "It is important to keep in mind, Mr. Goodale was charged with first-degree premeditated murder. We heard from juvenile courts today. There are no pre-existing programs in the juvenile court system that will address charges such Mr. Goodale." I am confused by that sentence. In the case of Willard Miller, inmate number 187.2, he had hearings later on. Just a little fact I'd like to insert. In the state of Iowa, adults who are charged with the crime that they have been charged with are typically subjected to a mandatory sentence of life without parole. Because of their age, they are not subject to the Iowa requirement of that. Now, the timeline of events go as follows. On the 2nd of November 2021, Graber left Fairfield High School in the afternoon before 4 p.m. and was travelling towards Chautauqua Park. At 4:45, she left her car. On the 3rd of November 2021, a pair of Goodale and Miller showed police Snapchat messages between the two suspects. The police say they messaged each other about following Graber, how they unalived her, and what they did with her body, her vehicle, and the evidence. Later on the 3rd of November, officers searched the park and found her body under a tarp and a wheelbarrow. On the 4th of November, 2 days after her disappearance, the police recovered clothing, strands of hair, bath towels, and 2 baseball bats from Jeremy Goodale's home. Other documents, including an alleged motive, had not at this point been released. But the motive is remarkably petty. The motive was because they had gotten a low grade in Spanish, and they wanted to take part in an abroad student program. They needed better grades for it. So they decided to stalk the teacher and beat her with baseball bats, which they did. The level of cowardice and pathetic involved, and the extreme employ, thinking that that would save their grades by removing the teacher out of the equation, is beyond me. These two idiots were identified as intelligent in court, clearly not when rationality went out of the window. Had they sought additional classes, perhaps they might have gotten a better grade. Had they simply sought out help, in fact, they could have potentially gotten better grades over time. Willard Miller had actually met his teacher, Graber, at the school to discuss the grade, which was lowering his GPA. Rather than apply themselves academically, they stalked her instead to learn her daily routine so they could ambush her. On Tuesday, April the 18th, 2023, Willard Miller, aged 17, Jeremy Goodale, aged 18, pled guilty to first-degree murder in the death of Nohema Graber. As part of the plea agreement, the prosecutors will recommend a sentence of 30 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole for Miller. They will recommend a sentence of 25 years to life with the possibility of parole for Goodale. Goodale, I don't actually care. Inmate number 187.1. Originally, both were going to be tried as adults, and before reaching a plea agreement, Jeremy was going to testify against Miller, which was actually expected to have happened on the exact same week of the agreement being struck. Jeremy had confirmed to authorities that Miller had struck first with a bat, and that he was the lookout. Goodale said he had struck her with the bat after the first hit failed to unalive her. Miller was scheduled to be sentenced on July the 5th, so I guess I don't need to do a YouTube short on that, with Jeremy being sentenced on August the 23rd. In the case of Miller, he was sentenced to life with a minimum tariff of 35 years, which is a 5-year increase on what the prosecutors had agreed to, meaning by the time he is released, he'll be in his 50s, if he is released. By that point, his life has just been thrown away. Congratulations, you colossal smeghead. The sentence of Jeremy Goodale actually took place not in August, but in November of 2023. Not entirely sure why the delay, but there was a delay of 3 months. On the 15th of November 2023, inmates number 187.1, Jeremy Goodale, now 18, was sentenced to life in prison with a possibility of parole in 25 years, meaning he will be 43 at the earliest before he is considered eligible for parole. Before being sentenced, Jeremy apologized to the teacher's family, the community, and his own family by saying, "I am sorry, truly sorry. What I've taken can never be replaced. Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself, prevent this loss and this pain that I've caused everyone." Not long after the passing of Nohema Graber, her husband passed away. He was grieving and had ceased seeking cancer treatment, something which the family understandably blame on Jeremy and Miller. Before issuing the sentence of life with a 25-year minimum, Judge Sean Showers ticked through 25 factors he had to consider. He said it was clear that Goodale was remorseful and did not consider the repercussions of killing Graber, but noticed that the teen was smart and could have easily stopped it from being carried out. His sentence matched the request by the prosecutors. Goodale's attorneys had tried to argue with no mandatory minimum sentence before being eligible for parole because of his age. Also speaking before the sentence was given, passed, doled out. The Graeber family, 10 members of it, gave victim impact statements or had statements read by a court official. Goodale, throughout all of this, failed to maintain his composure, and at one point during the sentencing he did have a nosebleed, which I can't show because YouTube are quite funny about it. But I can play a short clip of the sentence being passed.
Court finds, based on the nature and circumstances of this offense, along with the 25 required factors I'm required to consider in sentencing a juvenile for first-degree murder, the defendants shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. This sentence is permissible under current Iowa law. The presumption against mandatory minimum sentences has been rebutted by the nature of circumstances of this case.
Tom Graeber, the brother of the victim's husband Paul, said, "I must say your actions, to me, undercut the authenticity of the statements, that is. You're now an adult, you're over the age of 18, yet you had your counsel represent you, arguing on your behalf to escape punishment for this horrific crime. That doesn't sound like remorse to me. Time will tell whether there was any genuine or true remorse felt by that of Jeremy Goodale. And I'm not going to now speak for the sake of rehabilitation, because that is something for the state if they wish to take care of, and of course him if he so chooses to while incarcerated wherever he is incarcerated. For taking a life, the sentence should be life, 100%. Some places seek other penalties I do not agree with. With us here at the Halls of Injustice, the sentence is life and a hard labour camp on Titan.